Let me ask you something. When was the last time you actually eased into your day, not scrolled through chaos, not jumped out of bed in panic, just paused, breathed, and began with intention? We often treat stress like it's a badge of honor. But what if it's actually a warning sign? Today, I want to challenge an idea we've romanticized for too long, the idea that being always on is the only way to succeed. This isn't about being passive. It's about reclaiming control, ease in, stress out, let's talk about it. We live in a culture that celebrates speed. The faster we respond, the more efficient we appear. The earlier we arrive, the more committed we seem. The more we do, the more we are applauded, but rarely do we stop to ask, at what cost? In a world that glorifies urgency, we've mistaken being busy for being productive and being stressed for being serious. We rush into days, decisions, and even relationships, forgetting that meaningful things are never built in haste. From the moment we wake up, it begins, the screen lights up, notifications, messages, reminders. Before we even take our first conscious breath, we're reacting, and yet we expect peace to somehow find us in the chaos. But peace isn't something that shows up uninvited. It's something that must be made room for. And room isn't made when we rush, it's made when we pause. We enter meetings already anxious. We start conversations with our minds elsewhere. We begin tasks thinking about 3 more we've yet to do. There's no moment of grounding, no space to center ourselves. So we operate from a place of noise, not wisdom, not clarity, just noise, and noise doesn't guide. It misleads. Most of us have never really been taught how to begin. We've been trained to start fast, not start well, but the quality of anything, our day, our work, even our mindset, depends heavily on how we enter into it. Ease isn't a luxury, it's a choice, a skill even. One that says, I value how I show up, not just that I showed up. Rushing is not about urgency, it's about fear. Fear of being left behind, fear of not being enough, fear of losing momentum. But here's the paradox. The more we rush, the more we erode the very peace we're hoping to feel once we get it all done. Peace isn't found after the panic. It's found instead of it, if we choose to begin differently. And beginning differently doesn't mean abandoning ambition. It means redefining what progress looks like. Sometimes, the most productive thing you can do in the first 5 minutes of your day is nothing. Just breathe, just be, not to escape the work ahead, but to meet it from a place of strength, not strain. We forget that our nervous system doesn't have an on switch, it has a rhythm. When we jolt it into overdrive without warming up, we aren't preparing ourselves. We are setting a tone of tension. And the body follows that tone all day. That tension spills into our conversations, into our thoughts, into our decisions. So now we're not just rushing in, we're rushing through. The result, we're present, but not really. We hear people, but don't actually listen. We complete tasks, but miss the experience. And this detachment, this subtle numbness, starts to feel normal. But it's not. It's just what happens when we mistake movement for meaning. True presence cannot coexist with panic. You can't be calm and chaotic at the same time. You can't ease into life while carrying the weight of a world you haven't had a moment to process. You have to choose, not between working or resting, but between entering with purpose or entering on autopilot. Ease is often misunderstood. People think it means taking it slow, dragging your feet, avoiding responsibility. But that's not ease, that's avoidance. Real ease is entering the moment with your full attention. No split focus, no scattered energy, just a calm, grounded awareness that says, I'm here, and I'm ready. We tend to think that situations have power over us, that circumstances dictate how we feel, that events define our reactions, but more often than not, it's the state we bring into the situation that shapes what we take from it. The energy, mindset, and intention we carry into a room have far more influence than we realize. 2 people can walk into the same meeting, the same conversation, the same opportunity, and walk out with completely different experiences. Why? Because how they entered was different. Imagine walking into a room already defensive, already assuming you won't be heard, already convinced it won't go well. It doesn't matter how good the people in that room are. or how supportive the environment might be, you've already narrowed your ability to receive it. You're not walking into the situation, you're walking into your expectations of it, and your experience will almost always reflect what you came in ready to see. Now imagine the opposite. You enter with curiosity, with openness, with the willingness to be surprised. That mindset changes everything. It softens tension, it allows space for connection, it invites possibilities. It doesn't mean the situation will be perfect, but your openness gives it room to unfold instead of being suffocated by pre-judgment. This is true in moments big and small. The way you enter a difficult conversation with a friend will either build a bridge or raise a wall. The way you sit down to work, crushed or focused, will decide whether your hours feel heavy or purposeful. The way you start your day, your call, even your commute, all of it is affected by the energy you carry in. Most of us walk in already loaded with assumptions, with stress from an earlier moment, with distractions that have nothing to do with what's in front of us, and then we wonder why things feel off. But maybe they're not off. Maybe we just never gave ourselves a chance to be fully in. We arrived physically, but not mentally, not emotionally, not intentionally. There's a difference between entering a moment and landing in it. Truly arriving in a space means you've checked in with yourself first. You've paused long enough to decide, who do I want to be in this moment? Not who you were 5 minutes ago. Not who someone expects you to be, but who you choose to be right now. That choice, made before the moment begins, has the power to shape everything that follows. Think about people who consistently bring calm into chaos. It's not because their situations are easier. It's because they've learned to enter with steadiness. They don't wait for the room to feel safe. They become the calm presence in it, and because of that, they influence the energy instead of being consumed by it. We underestimate how much control we have, not over others, not over outcomes, but over our approach, over our breath before we speak, over our tone before we explain, over our body language before we sit down. These small acts of self-awareness aren't just nice habits. They're acts of leadership. They're acts of alignment, of deciding that you will shape your experience, not let it shape you, and no, it won't always go the way you imagined. But the point isn't control, it's clarity. Because when you enter a situation with presence and purpose, even when it gets hard, you navigate it differently. You listen more. You speak with more intention. You walk out with less regret because you showed up as who you meant to be, and over time, that kind of presence becomes a habit, not a performance, not a strategy, but a way of living, a way of making sure that wherever you go, you don't just show up, you show up on purpose. Stress is often misunderstood. We treat it like background noise, an annoying hum we learn to ignore. But stress isn't just noise, it's a language. It's the body trying to speak when the mind is too busy to listen. And yet, the moment we feel it, our first instinct is to resist it, to drown it out with more work, more distraction, more movement. We push harder, thinking we're being strong, but strength isn't about ignoring the signal, it's about having the courage to hear it. We've been conditioned to treat stress as a challenge to overcome, rather than a message to decode. We interpret it as a sign of weakness, as something to power through. So, instead of pausing, we accelerate. Instead of adjusting, we double down, and we wonder why burnout feels like a crash that came out of nowhere. But the truth is, it never comes out of nowhere. It arrives after countless ignored warnings. The body is incredibly intelligent. It whispers long before it screams, a tightening in your chest, a headache that keeps coming back, that restless feeling at night even when you're exhausted. These aren't random. They're indicators, clues not to scare you, but to guide you, to tell you something is off, something needs attention, something needs to change, but we don't like to slow down. In a world that applauds productivity, rest can feel like guilt. Listening can feel like laziness, so we turn away from the discomfort and dive deeper into action. We say, I just need to get through this week, or once this project is done, I'll rest, but the goalposts always move. And the stress compounds. What starts as manageable turns into chronic, and what's chronic begins to shape our identity. We start saying things like, "I'm just a high-stress person," or "this is just how I function," but that's not identity. That's adaptation. We've adapted to dysfunction so well that we no longer question it. But just because you've learned to survive stress doesn't mean you're meant to live in it, and survival isn't listening. It's enduring. There's a difference. Listening to stress doesn't mean surrendering to it. It means being honest enough to ask what it's trying to tell you. Is it pointing to a boundary you haven't set? A truth you've been avoiding? A rhythm you've ignored? Is it revealing how out of sync your life has become with your values? Listening doesn't fix it immediately, but it starts a conversation with yourself that's long overdue. The reason we fear listening is because it often leads to uncomfortable answers. It might tell you to let go of something you've attached your worth to. It might ask you to slow down when everyone around you is speeding up. It might even ask you to disappoint others in order to finally honor yourself. And that's hard. That's really hard. But ignoring it only delays the discomfort. It never dissolves it. There's a certain wisdom in the discomfort of stress. Not the panic of it, but the message underneath. Sometimes it's simply saying, "You're carrying too much." Other times it's saying, "You're chasing the wrong thing." And sometimes it's just reminding you that you're human, that your limits are not flaws. They are signals, markers, boundaries that are trying to protect you, not punish you. Stress will visit all of us. That's part of life. But it was never meant to be a permanent resident. It's a messenger, a checkpoint, a pause button, not a red flag for failure, but a yellow light for reflection. Something in your life is asking for your attention, not your aggression. And if you keep pushing harder every time stress speaks, you'll miss the point entirely. We often confuse speed with success. We live in a world where moving fast is praised, where multitasking is celebrated, and where more is always better. But what if that's not true? What if we've built a culture that's obsessed with movement, but has lost sight of meaning? Slowing down challenges that. It interrupts the default, and for many that interruption feels threatening. Not because it's wrong, but because it's unfamiliar. There's a strange pressure in our culture to always be on, to answer immediately, to move quickly, to fill every moment with something. Even our breaks are scheduled. Even our rest is optimized. But speed doesn't guarantee depth. Just because we're doing more doesn't mean we're doing what matters. Just because we're moving doesn't mean we're progressing, and that's where slowing down becomes not just useful, but necessary. Slowing down doesn't mean you lack ambition. It means you refuse to sacrifice clarity for the illusion of momentum. It means you value precision over volume. It means you understand that the quality of your output is directly tied to the quality of your attention, and attention thrives in stillness, not in the noise. When you slow down, you give yourself a chance to choose instead of just react. There's a subtle power in doing one thing at a time, fully, intentionally, completely. It feels countercultural, almost rebellious. Because we've been taught that if we're not juggling 5 things at once, we're not keeping up. But doing one thing well is not a weakness. It's mastery, and mastery comes from depth, not speed, from deliberate thought, not rapid execution. Slowing down also invites presence. It's in those quieter moments that we notice things we usually overlook. The tone in someone's voice, the tension in our own shoulders, the gap between what we're doing and what we truly want. These things don't reveal themselves in a rush. They show up when we give them space, and that space can change everything. When you move slowly, you see differently, you hear things that speed would have drowned out. You become aware of patterns, of habits, of blind spots that were invisible before. Slowness creates perspective. It allows you to rise above the urgency and ask, is this even the right direction? Because doing the wrong thing faster doesn't get you where you want to go. It just gets you lost more efficiently. There's also a rhythm to creativity that can't be forced. Ideas don't thrive under pressure alone. They thrive in freedom, in silence, in time. Some of the best solutions, the most original thoughts, the most meaningful connections happen not when you're sprinting, but when you're still. And in that stillness, there's room to think deeply, to feel fully, to create authentically. People often fear slowing down because they think it means falling behind. But behind what? A race no one can define, a pace no one can sustain. The truth is, when you slow down, you often leap ahead, because now you're moving with direction, not just momentum. Now you're making decisions from intention, not impulse. It's not about doing less for the sake of less. It's about removing the noise so you can amplify what truly matters. It's about subtracting the distractions so the essential work can breathe. It's about giving your full energy to fewer things so those things can be done not just efficiently, but excellently, because excellence doesn't rush. It unfolds, and in the end, slowing down becomes a strategy, not for escaping work, but for transforming it, for elevating it, for remembering that your best work doesn't come from the fastest version of you. It comes from the present version of you, the one who's paying attention, the one who's aligned, the one who understands that better isn't about more, it's about deeper. We tend to treat ease like it's something that happens to us, as if it depends on the weather, the calendar, or how well the day goes. We say things like, "I'll relax once this is over," or "I just need things to calm down first." But that makes ease conditional. That makes peace something that waits on the outside world to cooperate, and the world rarely does. Ease isn't a result of circumstances. It's a relationship you build with yourself, again and again, until it becomes your default, not your reward. The problem is we think ease belongs to the lucky or the privileged, to those with fewer responsibilities, fewer pressures, fewer demands, but that belief quietly convinces us that we don't have access to it, that our lives are too complicated for ease, too urgent, too messy. But ease isn't the absence of demand, it's the presence of perspective. It's not about having less to do, it's about learning how to be as you do. Just like stress can become a habit, so can ease, and it starts in the smallest of ways: how you breathe when you speak, how you pause before answering, how you hold your body in the middle of a difficult moment. These aren't tricks, they're choices. They're micro decisions that shape your nervous system, your communication, your energy, and when practiced over time, they begin to shift your baseline. Ease becomes something you carry with you, not something you wait for. The people who radiate calm aren't necessarily calm because life is easy for them. It's because they've practiced calm when it wasn't. They've chosen stillness in chaos. They've returned to their breath when everything felt urgent. They've built habits that center them. They've learned that if you can stay grounded when the world isn't, you become an anchor for yourself and for others. Ease doesn't ask you to move slowly. It asks you to move consciously. It's not about withdrawing from life. It's about moving through it without letting every gust of wind knock you off balance. It's about responding, not reacting. And the more you practice that response, the more natural it becomes. Like any muscle, the muscle of calm gets stronger the more you use it. We often think we need to fix our lives to feel better, change jobs, change routines, change cities, and sometimes that's true. But often what we really need to change is the way we're living, not the what but the how, and ease lives in the how, in how you hold your mornings, in how you transition between moments, in how you choose to interpret what's happening around you. When ease is a mood, we're always chasing it, waiting for the right timing, hoping for a break. But when it becomes a habit, we learn how to create it, right here, even in the middle of difficulty. It's like a muscle memory that says, yes, this is hard, and still I can meet it gently. Ease doesn't erase the hard things. It changes how you carry them. This doesn't mean you won't ever feel anxious or overwhelmed. It doesn't mean stress disappears, but it means your relationship with those states transforms. You stop letting them dictate your behavior. You stop letting them write your story. You become someone who can feel intensity without becoming it, and that's power, quiet, grounded power. The beauty of ease. Habit is that it builds quietly. No one announces when it arrives, but over time, you start to notice that your reactions are softer. Your presence feels more steady. Your thoughts don't spiral as quickly. You find yourself breathing through what you used to rush through. That's the shift, not in life getting easier, but in you getting clearer, and eventually that habit of ease becomes how you enter rooms, how you lead teams, how you hold space for others. It becomes part of your posture, your pace, your presence. Not because you've avoided difficulty, but because you've practiced peace in the middle of it, and peace that's practiced becomes part of who you are. We've been taught to survive the noise, to match the speed, to prove ourselves through pressure, but ease is not the enemy of achievement. It's the foundation of sustainable success. The way we enter moments, the way we listen to stress, the way we slow down, these are not soft skills. These are survival skills, not just for work, but for life. The truth is, you can't outrun the weight of your own nervous system. You can't build a peaceful life on a frantic mind, and no amount of pushing harder will replace the power of learning how to pause, to notice, and to lead from within. Because calm isn't something you wait for, it's something you practice over and over until it becomes the way you move through the world, not just when things are easy, but especially when they're not. You don't need to wait for the storm to pass to find stillness. You can learn to bring stillness into the storm. You can learn to enter with intention, to respond with clarity, to choose depth over speed, and to carry ease not as an escape, but as a way of being. Not as a reward for finishing the race, but as the pace that lets you run it well. In a world that glorifies urgency, stillness is radical, and in a culture that celebrates constant doing, being present is a quiet revolution. This isn't about stepping back. It's about stepping in, with more focus, more breath, more purpose. Not less effort, just better effort. Effort that's aligned, grounded, intentional, because in the end, ease isn't a luxury. It's a leadership decision. One that begins within.